Hi and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today should be a rather short one again because I'm only going to unbox Carnival Zombie the second edition, and yeah, obviously it's also a limited edition, whatever this means today. I already covered this game on my channel before. I did a full playthrough of the first edition, which I traded away when I heard that they're going to do a second edition. Yeah, things took longer than expected, as usual, but no hard feelings here. I'm now the proud owner of a second edition copy of Carnival Zombie. And don't ask me what I traded the original version for. I think it was a game that then also got basically a second edition as well. So let's not talk about this. So again, today I'm going to unbox this beauty here. And maybe I will let you decide if you want me to do another run-through playthrough of Carnival Zombie, because there are definitely extra things to look at in this version. But I think let's crack open this box here accordingly, and yeah, let's have a quick look inside of it, shall we? I mean, the obvious thing is that we have two of these cloth bags here. They're relatively large, so I have tiny hands actually, but yeah, I think they still fit in very nicely also for owners of larger hands than I have. And I guess this thing here is kind of already part of the so-called limited edition. So it comes with this very nicely done printed, not really printed, it's stitched basically, the abyss, where you then pretty much keep all your infected. So we're not talking about zombies in this game here, we are talking about the infected. And yeah, we have two cloth bags. I think this will come with a standard edition. If there is a standard edition, I really don't know, quite honestly, but yeah, we have two of those cloth bags. The real cool part about this one is not, I think this is already a the rulebook for a very special, I think it's another scenario or another campaign, because what they did do in this game is, now the normal game is what they refer to as the quote-unquote campaign game, and yeah, which you can pretty much play the same way as you did with the very first edition of the game. It can really take quite a while to go through the campaign game. There is not really a lot to whatever do in respect to, let's say, save the game state and whatever, play only one specific night. But I think I really played the first edition numerous times actually back then, and yeah, 3 hours, yes, easily, but nothing that would take you 6 hours or so. Yeah, it's a long game, but definitely manageable as doing one single game night, I would think. Maybe let's have a look at some of the extra stuff here, because these are characters that were not present in the first edition of the game. Rosaura here, we have Balanzone, we have Meneghino. I think here we have some additional bosses or so, which I think are being depicted in here. And the next thing here is, or are already, those so-called scenarios. And the game really comes with a lot of scenarios. First of all, they introduced, let's say, let's call it a quick start kind of mission scenario here, which is the Plague in Venice, which only plays over 2 nights and has some different victory condition, and they highly recommend you to play this Plague in Venice. So if I ever do another playthrough of this, I will most certainly go for this scenario here. Much shorter, much more even streamlined, because you're not dealing with any of those so-called finales, which are still part of this game. I think they may have changed some of them. I did not really read all of the rules that come with the game, really a lot of things to read, but this is definitely a nice thing that they added, let's say, a shorter mode of the game. I think this is simply an overview of exactly of all the normal bosses. I think we should also see, yeah, the normal characters in here, for example. These are the 6 standard characters which you can play, some of the locations. It's a very nice overview of things. This is another kind of, let's call it, scenario here, the Path of the Saints. I really didn't look at it, but just from a graphics perspective, this is gorgeous to look at. I'm really a big fan of this medieval-ish kind of artwork here, and this is really looking very, very nicely. That's another scenario, Death in the Fog. The cool thing about this is the first edition rules were okay, I guess, but sometimes you had to have some questions. Sometimes the whole game flow was not entirely clear to you when you first read that. For all of those scenarios, they put in some examples on how those play, and this is really something which I highly appreciate. They did that here for the big game hunting, for example. Also a nice little outline of a, let's say, yeah, example turn, for example. We have the Aerials crew. I'm not sure. This is, I believe, not one of the finale. Yeah, it is the finale. It's one of the finales, which you can also play on their own. That's also cool. You can simply say, I only want to play this finale here as a scenario. Works pretty well. The Armored Car, I think Leonardo da Vinci did this one here. You can basically move around Venice, and you have to, I think, yeah, Tarantasio is your yeah, the villain, the boss in this case, which you have to defeat. We have the destroyer ship, which is, I believe, also a finale, if I recall. I think all of those yellows up here should be finales in the end. This is a normal scenario, no rest, no peace. I did read some of those, and some of those really do sound very, very nice. This is another finale here for sure, which is the boat, which definitely was one of the first edition scenarios. This is a cool one. And also a scenario where you have to, because a lot of folks I introduced this game to, they were all fans of this pile of corpse kind of mechanic. And with this scenario, they added something on top of this, because you have to build these so-called experiments. And it's also allowing you to play with fewer than 6 characters, for example. If you want a 3-player game, everyone gets 1 character. And then you have to build these experiments based on the infected that are on the corpse pile. Really nice scenario. Definitely something I might want to look at it. Here we have Just a Matter of Time. Night Without Dawn is a very cool one, because it simply says you cannot win. How nice is that? So this is pretty much an endless wave after wave after wave of infected that will enter the board. And I believe, depending on how well or bad you did, you may get some extra stuff, extra survivors here, for example. And then you check how many of those foundering tokens. You know that the Leviathan is pretty much trying to sink the city of Venice, which will affect some of the locations. This one here, we are not really using the city map of Venice. It's basically this. And maybe again, I'm so sorry that I'm already diving into the meat of these scenarios, but I know the game and I read the game already with some of the stuff, and I'm really excited about all of these scenarios here. Then we have the Airship, which is definitely another finale here. So this is, I think, a twofold scenario. First, you have to go to one location, call the airship, and then you have to move to another location to be picked up. You still have to survive that night then. A lot of stuff. That's the Freedom Bridge, definitely also one of the more, let's call it, streamlined finales. So you have to escape Venice through the Freedom Bridge. In this case, the Holy Bomb, I think, is the most advanced finales in the game, because it really relies on a lot of things that you have to prepare. You have to find the Holy Bomb, you have to survive, you have to prime the bomb. So this is definitely one of the more sophisticated finales. I think I only played this one once, and yeah, I failed miserably. But definitely a lot of fun. Basically all of these scenarios here are kind of not really mini games. They are simply a different chapter to the standard mode of the game. Here we have the rulebook, which is or looks pretty thick and fat, but honestly and ultimately this game is not a very complicated game. There are tons of examples in here. So for example, they're explaining here what happens before you're starting the so-called, again, campaign game, and they walk you through the steps here, but then on the left and right they really tell you how it is played, and this is really nicely done. That's why this game board is relatively thick in the end. So a ton of explanations of the components and so on. So definitely don't let this frighten you. In the end, it's not an overly complicated game, I would think. So I think then we are looking at some of the punch boards, and I think I did not even look at this, as you might as well can tell. So these really comes with a ton of stuff. I think this is the pile of corpses here, which I think in this version now comes with some cubes which you put underneath it if you want. Not sure if you have to do this. Some of the obstacles here, for example, some of the fortifications that are in there. These are the markers for our standard characters, or these are the markers just to give you some help. This is the time marker, but I think I may come to that. Here we have the punchboard tokens for all our heroes, which we may not use when I'm going to play this game. Some more random stuff. I think this is already one, how is this one called? There, we will see the miniature in a second, or in a minute. Yeah, but one of these bigger scenarios. I think, is it the Mediolanum? Is it the Meteor? Yeah, it is the Mediolanum, I believe. This is the, yeah, exactly. This is the scenario where you are using this either token or miniature. Yeah, definitely let's go for the miniatures. I think these are the tokens for the new characters that come with the game, if I recall that correctly. Some extra stuff. I believe this is this another pile of corpse? Alternative one or so, or maybe it goes with some of the expansions. Not 100% clear on this. Yeah, obviously we have the main game board, which I think, yeah, up here we have the city of Venice, where you have to move through depending on the difficulty level. You can start either here, there, or there. And this is the tactical map in the middle. Yeah, should I open it up? I think, well, let's quickly do that. Really nicely done, very nice. I think it's double-sided, and I have to confess I don't know why that is. If that's just to have it on two sides, is there different artwork on the other side? I really don't know. Maybe it's really for one of the scenarios. I do have to do some more reading. And yeah, then we are coming to the miniatures. There were 0 miniatures in the first edition of the game. Again, it could be that the miniatures only come with a limited edition. I don't know. This snake here is, yeah, pretty massive. And just to give you some perspective, here is my hand. So this thing is really massive. Here is a die next to it. And maybe let's put out a simple standard miniature right next to it. Yeah, I think this is really a massive thing. It's really, really huge. But again, you're only using this, as far as I know, with one of the scenarios. The lighter gray miniatures up here are the standard heroes. I believe these are all the standard heroes, so basically that are were also part of the first edition of the game. Here we have one, I think there were 3 additional characters now with this edition here. Again, I already have forgotten how they have been called, and they're up down there somewhere in my pile here. All those names, they also come with very cool special abilities or whatnot, but I think I will most likely stick to the standard characters. One thing that they did change in this game, in the first edition of the game, all of those characters had a preset turn order. In the second edition of the game, it seems they have changed that rule that you can pick the order, but I think from what I read, you only pick that ever once at the start of the game. So in the end, yeah, the captain does not have to go first, but yeah, whatever position has been decided, it's then preset. And I think I mentioned it more than once in some of my other videos. Personally, I do prefer games where it's, or at least cooperative game where the players get to choose the turn order, just to whatever, discuss with each other who should go first and who should go next and so on. I think that's not what's going to happen here. Maybe I misread. I only read through the rules once. Maybe there was something mentioned there, but I don't know. Then, yeah, I think let's scroll over here a little bit. These are some of the bosses, and honestly, they look very, very nice. I mean, it's really, I really don't know what this is. I think this is the Admiral or so. And as you may know, I'm not really the most gifted and talented miniature painter out there, but here I'm really, really looking forward to do that, because I think this might be a game I'm not trading away or selling too easily. And yeah, the quality of those miniatures are really, really nice. I like them a lot, actually. I think let's have a look what's underneath here. So you can take this one out. Nicely done. And yeah, here we have the character cards. This is, I believe, one of the characters from, I think that's a base character, Ale. I cannot really read that. Legione, that's Colombina. She's definitely, she's the sharpshooter. She can ignore some of those obstacles, as far as I remember. Capitan Spaventa, also a standard or first edition character. Here we have Rosaura. I think she's the inventor. She can kind of use, let's say, items from other characters and players, I believe. And you pretty much recognize those, let's call it expansion characters, by this red banner here. So here we have Rosaura, we have Menegino. He is the collector. He can do some very nasty stuff to those infected. Here's the Infiltrator, and I think those were all of the, let's call it expansion characters from, I guess they come with a limited edition, I don't really know. The Infiltrator, he's kind of a loner. So he's not moving into the space with the other characters, or so he's moving around in those caves. So that's looks or sounds intriguing, at least to some extent. Here we have Brickhell. I think Brickhell he was called. Now they are going by the Italian name Brigella. That sounds much nicer. Pantalone, he's the engineer, exactly. And then we have the Medico della Peste. I think he can basically cure other players. Yeah, then we have some player aids, and that's something they haven't really changed, at least in the standard campaign mode of the game. And the same goes with this this introductory scenario here. You always have to play that with 6 characters. Of course, you can play that with less players. Than this instance, players have to control more characters. But that's again where I do appreciate some of the scenarios that simply allow you to just play with 3 characters, for example. I think this experiment one was one of those examples here. But yeah, nice looking player aid. I think this is for the day. At least I think. No, I think they're not really going through that here. But yeah, that is carrying out the day. And this is more of the night kind of thing. Definitely helpful. Did not really look at it in detail, but I always appreciate things like that. Let's get rid of these characters, or those characters here. Let's see what we have. This is a metal coin. I think this also goes with one of these scenarios only. So there's no such thing as a starting player or so, but yeah, definitely nice. I love metal coins that come with the game. Here we have the tarot cards that depict the various bosses with all of their special abilities, and I'm really a big fan of the artwork and the whole total style of this game. But this was already true for the first edition of the game, which has drawn me into. I'm really a graphical visual person, and yeah, I'm following like flies to nice stuff actually when I see those. So yeah, these are the tarot cards for the various bosses, and I'm relatively certain that this edition comes with much more, or many more bosses than the first edition had. Some extra back. These are also part of the cubes, because these are those Barricade tokens. I think we still have the standard brownish tokens in here, but they also came with these pre-printed Barricade tokens here. The same is true for the rune tokens. I think we also still have standard red tokens, but why should we go with standard red tokens if we have nicely printed one? And I think the same is true for the survivors here, which are also pre-printed, and which also helps you then when you, whatever, for example, draw those out of that cube. I immediately recognize them. I mean, yeah, they're blue. You would typically recognize them. But still, I like those a lot. I think we still have those paranoia cubes. Exactly. Where did I see this face before? Hopefully I'm not running into problems here. But again, the game still comes with a standard black cubes. Work pretty well as well, but yeah, definitely looks more nicer. And I have one more now than in the original games. Normally we have 6 of those paranoia cube. Now I have 7 pre-printed one. I don't know, maybe it's simply one spare. Cannot tell you. I'm relatively certain we are not going to use those, as we do have the miniatures. And what I also do like, we have, let's say, custom tokens for, I think this is where the ticket marker, so where we are, if we are a day, or which day we are. This is the location marker for our group when we are moving over the city of Venice. And we have the hour marker here. And yes, the game comes with cardboard tokens for the same. And I think below here, these are then the standard cubes for the infected here. I think the green ones are the vermin, the most standard ones. And here you really need them to be cubes, because you're pulling them out of a bag. You are putting them on top of the pile of corpses, which is really, really great fun. And I guess last but not least, we simply have those, I think these should be all item cards in the end. Each character has their own deck of item cards. I think are those 10 cards per character or so. Maybe let's simply open one up. And it seems I ended up with 11 of those character cards. So it was close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And again, they're all very specific for those characters. The items here with his star is something that you get as a freebie when you play the easy mode. So in this case, Columbina would start with the explosive bullets. I think these are one time for 1 hour exactly. How you can use them. For 1 hour, all your shots are explosive, which means you are dealing damage to basically the entire space in which you're shooting into. A bomb blaster, tarot cards, place 2 survivors. So they all come with very nice special ability. They all come with relatively clear iconography on when you can use them. Are these ongoing abilities? Are these one-time abilities? This is obviously a daytime thing. This is a nighttime thing. And yeah, they all have very different kind of abilities. And usually when you, I think, defeat a boss, you get one of those cards when you are doing a search action. During the day, for example, you can draw one of your cards, for example. And I think somewhere in here exactly, these are the, how are these called? Nightmare cards, I believe nightmare cards in here, which work pretty much as a randomizer. And I'm really a big fan of basically using cards this way compared to rolling die, because things are so much easier when you simply reveal a card and do what the card tell you. And they have randomizers for a lot of things. First of all, if you want to determine a random character, if you want to determine a location, if you need an event, if you are going to search for stuff, depending on what shows up on this section on the bottom left here, stuff will happen. If you want to come up with a random, how are those called, caves in the strategic map, and yeah, you're simply flipping those over and then you find stuff, or stuff will happen in this. I think there's not a whole lot of those event cards in the game, and I think you reshuffle those at the end of each night. Do you do that at the end of the day? Cannot quite remember right now. So it's not that you can count things through in the end. So someone would argue, hey, yeah, that's cool because it is somewhat deterministic, because let's say I already have pulled out whatever 2 times the character 1 in this case, and then I would draw again. It's less likely now that the 1 comes up again. Unfortunately, again, in this case, they're more like a die, because typically after each round or so you are reshuffling those anyway, and then yeah, this is all that you get in respect to deterministic results. And yeah, that's pretty much my messy unboxing of Carnival Zombie, the 2nd edition. Before I leave you to it, a huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members out there. Really, really do appreciate all your support. You guys are truly amazing. And yeah, let me know if you are interested in seeing another playthrough of Carnival Zombie, the 2nd edition. Again, I might be going for some of the shorter scenarios in this instance, but really, yeah, looking forward to playing this game either on camera or off camera. Again, I leave this up to you. In the meantime, definitely go check out my original playthrough of Carnival Zombie really years ago. I haven't watched it for ages. Maybe I should check it out before recommending it to anyone. Yeah, there you go. And yeah, with that being said, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And until then, bye bye.